gentlemen, we are back recording after a game week full of surprises, fun, shock, awe, and horror for some. And we also have some new faces on the pod today. Welcoming Akshay. Hi, Akshay. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Long-suffering United fan. Been a United fan since before they started winning, and during the winning, and now after. So happy to chat about stuff. And I was maybe still old enough to watch games, while you guys were still a little younger, I think.
And figures you finally picked a day when you could take no more and you had to finally come on the pod and say, okay, now I have to speak
It's best
out.
to start at the bottom, then we can move up.
Right. And we also have another long-suffering oldie United fan, oldie in terms of the pod. Ashwin, how are you, my friend?
Uh,
That long sigh tells it all.
Numb, I would say, I mean, I thought, I just don't want to talk about the weekend much. Let me put it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
figures. And finally,
Aside from the fact that the United ladies beat Leicester by 5 goals to
mhm.
1, that was a good point to talk about.
That was the only United game that happened, right?
Yeah, no other action
Yeah.
from the weekend.
And as you can see from his grinning face, like the cat that got the milk, Anirudh Krishnan Radhaji.
Yeah, good. I mean, I don't know why all of you are so glum. We had such a great time to be alive. Everything's so positive and bright around the world. It was a good time to be on the podcast. So looking forward to the episode.
Yeah, and as we can see, you're wearing your blue Merseyside representation as is your true color. Anyway, let's get down to it. What are your talkie points? And I'm not going to make the United boys suffer too much on this one. We'll start off with Radhaji. You picking one? You picking seven? How many talkie points?
I mean, I could have picked a bunch. There were so many moments to pick from, but I think every Liverpool fan's favorite moment of the game was Bobby Firmino getting a goal at the Cop End. A couple of days after he announced that he's not going to be signing a contract with us. I mean, it was a whirlwind of emotions of a day. What happened was just unspeakable, incredible. But to top that off with a Bobby goal at the Cop End, he came on as a substitute and then still managed to score. Got a great reception, probably even better reception when he came on than when he scored. So incredible day for Liverpool, but all the better thanks to Bobby.
Yeah, and he decided to do that just the day after I'd put him out of my draft team. So thanks, Bobby. Right, Ashwin, do you have maybe a talkie point, or are you still clinging on to the Carabao from last week?
No, I think obviously there's a lot to talk about, but there's not a lot to smile about as a United fan. But I think there was one really hilarious moment from the match. I think it came right towards the end when this Liverpool fan runs onto the pitch, and he runs the entire length of the pitch and goes to celebrate with the Liverpool players, and literally slide tackles like two of the Liverpool players, and then you can see Klopp, literally furious. Like it was so funny to watch. I know. I hope, I think it was Andy Robertson, and I can't remember the other player that he seemingly injured, but that expression on Klopp's face was like, "You idiot! You really want to injure more of my players?" So I think that was a really funny one.
Yeah, I think that was the only time Robertson got tackled in that game.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. Right. Akshay, what's your talkie point of the week?
I'm actually going to go with a non-United, because I think there's been enough said about the 7-0 and enough bird and red to keep us depressed for a few days. But I spent a lot of time when I first started watching football detesting Arsenal because of the 97, 98 and the next 5 years after that. So I've been loathing the moment where they actually might end up winning the title this year. I would probably prefer City to do the three-peat as opposed to the Arsenal winning a title. But seeing what they did against Bournemouth, coming back from another losing situation, and just the way in which they just seemed like they were always going to score. That to me is a moment where I think I finally realized that Arsenal will probably win the title, and they have enough metal in them to actually get through. So it's a little bit of a flashback to some more depressing times, like I said, to pile on to the misery of losing 7-0.
Yeah, and I think the Athletic have already done a piece about the celebrations after the game, after the Reiss Nelson goal as well. So then I think they're probably running out of ideas to write content. But anyway, for me, the talkie point has to be yesterday's game, qualifying for the next round of the Champions League. There's not much greenery in sight for Chelsea fans, so we'll take whatever little slivers of hope we can take. I don't know if we'll get out of the quarterfinal or we'll get out from the quarterfinals, but we shall see. But anyway, I think there's only one place where we can start, and I think we talked about this last week, and RK is not here this week, but he did say that form goes out of the window when it's something like Liverpool United. And form went out of the window, conditioning went out of the window. I don't know what else went out of the window. It was like, I was talking to Ashwin before we started recording. I was like, did your guys have something else, something wrong, some sickness through the camp? I don't know what.
Okay, cool. I think, yeah, I don't know if they were under the influence, if that's what you're trying to say, Swag, but like it was certainly a very off day. And like last podcast, RK and I was saying that it is Anfield and you never know what can happen at Anfield, no matter what form Liverpool are in. Liverpool played really well, so all credit to them. But I also want to like talk about how pathetic all of us, all of our players were. Uh, I want to start with Bruno Fernandes because he was the captain, and I totally agree with what Gary Neville said after the game as well. Like he was just whinging. He had his hands up in the air. There are rumors that he wanted to get substituted because we were losing that much. Like fucking take responsibility, which he did not do throughout the game. He had a good chance, mind you, in the first half. He could have scored a header. Fine, he did not score that header. These things happen. But in the second half, when Liverpool scored the second, the third, and the fourth, it was just like proper capitulation. Like they did not know what to do. There was no control in the midfield. Casemiro obviously had an off day, and whenever Casemiro seems to have an off day, United seems to have an off day. But this was like the off days of off days, right? To concede 7 goals at Anfield is just unthinkable. I really feel for Eric Ten Hag in some sense, because no matter what he does, this season would always be known as the season where we lost 7-0 to Liverpool. I know we have made a lot of progress. We won our first trophy after 6 years. We may win another trophy. We might do really well and finish in the top 3 or top 4. But this will always be known as a season where we lost 7-0 to Liverpool.
Yeah, I think exactly that, it overshadows everything that we've done, and it will probably overshadow everything that comes in the next, 3 months, right? We win the FA Cup, it's a double, even though it's the worst double you can, I guess, achieve, but would still be a great success given where we started the season. But this is really what people will talk about. For me, I think what was disappointing to see that I think at even at 3-0, it looks like the team just said, "Oh, this can't get any worse, so let's just stop playing for the rest of the game." Before realizing, irrespective of the season that Liverpool's having this year, they are a very, very good team who can punish anybody on their day, and it became worse. You could almost see people are just they're living through their nightmares, right? As goal after goal went in. And at one point, I checked to see if the manager was different for us, because I was like, is this, is Ten Hag on a break or something? Did Ragnick come back as like a ceremonial event to take care of the second half or something? Because it was surreal for me. Like, I'm used to turning off the TV most of last season under Ragnick and saying, okay, I can't watch this anymore. But the first time I've ever felt like doing that, with Ten Hag. But I think my bigger concern is, without reading too much into the fact that it was maybe an off day, is this a sign of what the next couple of months look like? Because tiredness is a factor. We've been playing 2 games a week since the World Cup. I just worry that since I've seen a little bit of slow starts with West Ham going behind, right? Is this a sign of things to come? And do we really not have the team we need to get through the next 3 months?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I was talking about this last week as well. We haven't been starting our games really well. The game against Leicester, I was so sure that we will lose. And then we turned it around in the second half. When we were 1-0 down, and even when we were 2-0 down, we had the worst start possible. I somehow had the hope that, we'll come back, primarily because, we have been scoring goals despite not playing as well as we should. And then also the fact that Liverpool had chipped in like 5 goals against Madrid. I know we are not fucking Real Madrid, right? But like we are also like, we are not the United from the Ragnick days. And Eric Ten Hag, we actually have a manager who the players believe in. In this game, it seemed to be like an Ole team. Like the team was just doing what it felt like doing. Like I'm sure Eric Ten Hag had some tactics. The team was definitely not following that. When your team loses 7-0 though, the manager has to take some blame as well. I think just before the game, we were talking in the group as well as to Bruno Fernandes starting on the left-hand side was very interesting. I've seen him start on the right. Obviously, he's played on number 10 as well, but him starting on the left, Boot on number 10, and then Rash, higher up. I don't know if that was the right tactic at that point in time. It clearly backfired. But once it was 2-0 or even 3-0, I think Eric Ten Hag should have tinkered around a bit more. He should have probably taken off Anthony much before, who wasn't having the bestest of games. So I think overall it was just a really bad day for the manager, for the team, for United fans. It was just a bad day.
Yeah, just before I bring Radha in, I just have a question about Bruno. You mentioned that he was whinging quite a lot, etc., and his captaincy should be taken away. But we know that Bruno always whinges. That he always whinges when things aren't going his way. So is he really the sort of player a Ten Hag would have as captain? Do you think that this is going to change now, or he's
Yeah,
not
so
going to be in consideration?
No, so he had a press conference today and he mentioned that Bruno is my captain when Harry Maguire is not playing, and Harry Maguire is fucking not playing anytime soon. So he's just yeah. I think Ten Hag would publicly write this off, but I think he'll be having a conversation with him and he'll be like, stop being a fucking crybaby, because that's what he was in the game. Like I don't understand like what he was doing in the game. Like it wasn't just the usual binging, right? He actually like there was a point in the game where he tried tackling that kid his name I can never pronounce. Anyway, so he tried tackling him, and then he realized that okay, fine, this kid is too fast for me. Goes past him, and then he tried. I think he pushes the linesman as well. What the fuck are you doing? Like, especially at the time, and I was listening to this on the Athletic podcast. It has been widely reported that in the amateur game, a lot of referees are actually quitting because there has been a rise in the violence against referees. So, as a Premier League player, as a revered Premier League player, as the captain of Man United, if you do something like that, there's something clearly wrong with you. Like, it was so disappointing to see that from Bruno, because I have personally defended him so much just because he's been our captain. But yeah, it's not worthy of a Man United captain to do all of that.
Yeah, I'm completely on board with that. I think he was absolutely disgraceful in the game. It's okay I think United have not got a good record at Anfield in the last few years. It's okay to lose a game. I think they've lost 3-0, 4-0 before. There's nothing that I don't think lots would have happened if that had happened like on Sunday. But to just stop trying and to just throw your hands up at everything. Garnacho came on, just starts throwing your hands up and pointing fingers at Garnacho for not passing to him and things like that. Like he looked like a real big time Charlie in that entire game. And all the examples that Ashwin talked about, and he did. There was a very clear at 6-0 when Rashford was coming off. He kept gesturing to the bench to say, "Is it me? Is it going to be me?" And when Rashford's number actually came on, he threw his hands up again. It's like that for an opposition captain, whether it be a Liverpool captain or a United captain, going to the other person's ground and behaving like that is just disgraceful. I don't think any United, as amazing as he is and as huge of an impact he's had through all the tough times under Ole and all of that, and really galvanized seasons in the past, I think he would have lost a lot of ground in every United fan's eyes. You don't come to Anfield and then behave the way you did and then just stop trying. That Batchetich example was just comical. He just let him, and a few months ago we were on this podcast berating Mbappe for doing something similar. He didn't get a pass and he just stopped running, turned around and walked in the other direction, and we were berating him for that. That's basically what Bruno did when Batchetich ran past him, right? There's an 18-year-old kid who runs past you. You're the captain. You're supposed to be setting the example for everybody. I mean, it was absolutely disgraceful. That said, Garnacho, I think, was also terrible. For a new young kid to come on in a game like that, he didn't track back once in the entire time that he was on. I would have thought in a game like this, in a situation like that, as a young player, if you guys remember when we were leading 4-0 or at Anfield or final at Old Trafford, one of them, Hannibal Mujabri, came on and then just threw in a bunch of tackles for the heck of it at the end of that. Like, that was the only kind of heart that United showed in that game. And today, I thought that would have been something that somebody like a Garnacho would really be. He'll just run his heart out for those 10-15 minutes that he came on. He didn't. He was just not running back at all. That is really poor. Casemiro, I thought, was a big hit for us. Like, for Liverpool fans, we were worried about him coming into it. He was clearly injured. I don't think I'm 99% sure he was injured. He passed the ball to Elliott at one point, and then he couldn't catch up with Elliott, which Elliott is not one of our faster players. So that told me. And then after that, maybe 2 minutes after that, he was holding his hamstring and shin and stuff like that. So I think definitely Varane and Casemiro had something off on them. The last United player that I just wanted to touch upon was Licha. I think Licha has been probably the best player at United this season, apart from Rashford. And to be absolutely clear, I think Cara was 100% wrong about him. He's a great player and he will be a good player going forward. But I do think this was a really, really tough test for him. I don't think he was able to manage the bulk, physicality, length, and the pace of everything that was happening around him. One, because Shaw was just, I don't know what Shaw was doing. He was letting Mo Salah have a free run on the left, so Licha kept having to defend one-on-one. And then Gakpo, 6'3", can hold people off, can hold the best of defenders, largest of defenders off. I think he had his way a bit with Licha as well. He kept winning in the air and he was able to hold him off. And finally, at the end of the game, he was just tackling for the sake of it and got yellow cards. So yeah, I think he had a very, very torrid game, probably the most difficult game that he's had in his United career so far.
And I will not forget how subtly you've thrown in when we were leading 4-0 and when we were leading 5-0 at Old Trafford. Just a subtle reminder that these things have happened in the recent past.
You know what? That was a game where we were completely annihilated. I think this was just, even though Liverpool scored more in this particular game, I think that was a game where Liverpool played even better. So it's even scary to know that what if it was the greatest Liverpool sides that have decimated the previous United teams, could have been 15-0 for all you care.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys remember the Old Trafford, we were all joking about it in the group that they basically stopped playing to save Ole's job at that point of time, right? So they could have, for an entire half of football, they just knocked the ball around. Those games last season, the clubs were at very, very different levels from what they are right now. In fact, obviously, United are at a higher level than Liverpool are this season. So I don't think this was a 7-0 kind of performance, maybe a 3-0 or a 4-1, 3-1 kind of performance. But my point, when I made that point, it was the game was lost at that situation when Hannibal came on and did what he did. And there was nobody from United who took even showed any of that bite or any of that character or attitude that Hannibal showed when he came on. And that was disappointing, I'm sure, for every United fan who was watching that game.
So Radha, you mentioned that United and Liverpool are at different levels right now, and United are at a higher level and Liverpool are at a low level. Are Liverpool now at a top four level, or are you still denying that you're in the race for top four?
No, I'm not denying that we're in the race, right? Like even last week when you asked me, I said we're very much in the race, but I don't think that we're going to get there because of all the inconsistencies. But this week was a very, very good week. Not only did this 7-0 will see all what you guys said, right? This entire season of United is always going to be that season where you lost 7-0 at Anfield. This will always be the season where we beat.
Hold on. That's not what you said. You said you were in the frame. You did not say you were in the race. You said you were in the frame, and United will finish second and City will finish third. That's what you said.
So you now I'm going to challenge you guys to go back and re-listen to the episodes. The question was, are you guys in the race? And I quoted the question, are we in the race? Yes. But do I think we're going to get there? No. That is exactly what I said. But anyway, coming back to the point, I don't think that much has changed in the overall top four situation for us. We did have a huge boon by Wolves beating Spurs. That was really unexpected. So Wolves beating Spurs and Newcastle losing to City on Saturday, and then what happened on Sunday happened. Any season when you beat Manchester United 7-0 as a Liverpool team and supporting and staff and everything, that has to give you a kick. So I do think we should kick on from here. It should get better from here from what it's been after the World Cup. But I still see that it's going to be a challenge because we play now Spurs, Chelsea, and Man City in 3 of the next 5 or 3 of the next 4. So it's going to be a challenge for sure. There could be other teams that gain ground, and by that I mean Newcastle or Spurs. They can gain ground in that period of time. It's going to be challenging, but this is a great way to start this really tough period.
Yeah, I think there's quite modesty there after the 7-0 to try to downplay any extra excitement. I mean, I think my concern with Liverpool, I mean, not that we're playing them again as a United fan, but it's sort of like waking up a sleeping giant, right? Like the win against Newcastle was a nice win, irrespective of what Pope did to help that along. But for me, if I looked at the 3 teams, between Liverpool, Newcastle, and Tottenham, I see downward trends for like Newcastle. They're starting to show some cracks and conceding much more goals than they have. Tottenham is a mess. Whether Conte is there or not is the same thing. They're equally bad most days and good some days. But this is like, for me, Liverpool's like a sleeping giant that just got woken up. And I think Klopp will use all the extra motivation he gets from this to really push for the next several months, right? And yeah, there's 3 tough games coming up, but I wouldn't put it past them to get at least a result or 2 in a couple of those games, given all the great momentum and the excitement and happiness. So I would say they're probably one of the, for me, the front runners to actually get to that top 4 spot, if you look from now to the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also I add that to the fact that Spurs are Spurs, right? So they can always drop points. And I don't know what the hell is happening with Conte, if he's back, if he's not back, but they are so inconsistent. So I think that really plays in Liverpool's favor as well.
So Conte is back, but obviously that's also got to play on their mind, right? He's not there.
I mean, back for real is what I meant.
Yeah, I think he's back now. Tonight's game is the first one where he's back for good. But yeah, that's obviously got to play on the players' minds as well. 1 week, it's Stellini who's leading the training. 1 week, it's Conte. What are we doing? And it's not good, and probably that's why the blow hot, blow cold. And as Akshay said, Newcastle on a downward spiral as well, regardless of what Pope did. Apart from that as well, Almiron isn't scoring anymore all his wonder goals. So for me as well, Liverpool front runner.
Yeah, I mean, just before we move on to the next few games, I think couple of things that we have to table for Liverpool, because I've been very critical in this entire season about Fabinho. I think he was outstanding in this game. He really had the energy and that front foot nature of stepping up and winning the ball even when United had it. I think that led to the second goal that we scored, the Darwin Núñez header. He actually picked Casemiro's pocket on that, and eventually that led to the cross which Darwin scored. I think Fabinho was superb all through the game. Harvey Elliott was a huge question mark that I had prior to the game. I wanted Bacetic to have played instead of Harvey, but he really shut me up in that game. So my doubts with him were always that he does these nice things on the ball, progressive things on the ball, but can he be the person who presses? Can he also be a defensive-minded midfielder? And I think he was really good he was probably one of the best pressers in our game. And defensively as well, he was always supporting the play. He had that extra responsibility of being on the right. Usually Hendo plays on the right to help Trent out, but this time it was Harvey, and I think he did really well. Touching back to what Ashwin said earlier, there was that entire point about Bruno playing on the left. That really helped us, because I felt all through, if Trent is good at one thing, it's about those huge switches. And they were playing very narrow, and Anthony didn't track back, that's point one, but he was always narrow. That left Robertson in huge amount of space all through the game, which Trent was able to find multiple times through the game. And the fact that Trent always gets worried when you have somebody with a real physical superiority, like a lot of pace or a lot of power. He struggles with guys like that. And the guy in United's team who has that is Rashford. So I was really delighted to see that he was not playing on the left up against Trent. I think Trent's mind space would have been all about worried about Rashford and not thinking about going forward if that had happened. I think Bruno offers a threat which Trent can manage on any given day, but Rashford would have posed something totally different. But so Trent and Robertson, I think Robertson was probably man of the match, if not for Salah. I mean, we just take it for granted with Salah, but what a game he played. Our top scorer in the Premier League now, that's no mean feat. After so many years of having successful teams, good teams, he is now crossed Robbie Fowler in the goal scored. That's pretty incredible. In probably 5 seasons. So yeah, that's ridiculous. And the play against Licha will never. He's done this to some of the best defenders in the world. He's done it to Koulibaly. He's done it to Laporte. He's done it to. I think he did it to somebody. He did it to Vertonghen at Spurs, and Licha, that crisscrossing run which leaves the centre back completely confused. He's just so good at that, and played an amazing ball for Gakpo. And now coming to Gakpo, I mean, I think he really announced himself. He had those moments against Newcastle and against Everton, but there's no better way to do it than against United at Anfield. The 2 goals he scored were just outstanding goals. The first goal reminded so much of that Martial goal that they scored, and the second goal was just world-class finishing. Amazing. While definitely United played a huge part in the game and the scoreline, some of the quality and finishing acumen and counter-attacking from Liverpool was great to see.
Radha, quick question for you. We saw Gakpo, Núñez, and Salah score a brace each. Do you think this is like the emergence of a new front three for Liverpool?
Absolutely. So I think there was a lot of chat on the group about that 5-1 at Arsenal, and I think we've had similar kinds of games with Salah, Bobby, and Mane as well, where they were a work in progress, and then suddenly there was one game which kind of really blew things apart, and they started to believe that they're a really good team. So I think that could be the moment for these three. The really interesting thing would be, and it's a great problem to have, is that Luis Diaz should be about to come back anytime now. And he was like a giver. He was probably the first name on the team sheet all through the time when he was not injured. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next from a selection point of view. But this could be the watershed moment for these three. I totally agree. Like they seem to have a really good connection in and amongst each other. I think Gakpo and Núñez were swapping left and center very, very smoothly. Salah was confident enough to keep finding people running behind the lines. He's already had that amazing couple of assists to Gakpo, who's just beating the line superbly. So yeah, I think it was really good, and good for Nunez as well to get a couple of goals, because he keeps doing the lot of hard work and things well, but he's not had the goal output as much as, say, everyone would have wanted or expected. So good to see him chip into the goals. I think definitely this could be a real kickstarter for these three.
Okay. That's a lot of chatter about Liverpool and United. I think we'll move on to part two now, where once I want to start off with Chelsea for a change. See you in a bit. So we've had a break. Nice break, right, Akshay?
Yeah.
Nice long little break. Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. And part two, we're starting off with Chelsea, and we're recording this the day after the Dortmund tie, and Chelsea got over the line. Finally, some silver lining to this big dark cloud that's been at Stamford Bridge all season long. Is it enough? I don't know, but at least we're in the quarterfinals. So fair play to the team, and it did seem that the players, if you can say things in those stereotypical football terms, it seemed that the team was fighting for Potter. They didn't seem to have given up on him. So hopefully it means that things are well between them. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure I would say that nothing doing he has to go today itself. But yeah, I would say the last two games have seen a bit of an improvement, but I think Radha, you were mentioning this in the last episode as well, that it's an unwinnable situation that he's in. So regardless of what he does, he's been dumped with all these players who need to be played in specific positions or formations, and one of the biggest squads right now in terms of number of players. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was watching the line. I actually saw some of the game yesterday. I was watching the players come out. I didn't recognize half of them. I looked at this one guy, like, I feel like I've seen him somewhere, but I don't remember what his name is. I don't know what his jersey number is. Like, I have no idea what this jersey number guy is. Then I looked at this team sheet, like, oh, this guy they bought from Aston Villa, long time ago for 20 million and signed to the 16-year contract when he was age 18.
Yeah, such are the days.
I think we should like spend like a minute more and just talk about how Potter has actually got two huge results, and maybe some pressure should get reduced. We spent a lot of time in the previous episode basically saying he's out the door and come on, who's next and all of that. So I mean, fair play. I did mention that their entire season and his life depends on the Champions League. I honestly didn't see them getting past Dortmund. So huge props for actually getting through. I think there was some controversy around the penalty. One, whether it was actually a penalty, whether it was. Then I heard about. I didn't watch the game, but I heard that there was a retake, which because of an encroachment, and there was a very slow run up, and both sides are feeling like are on opposite ends of the spectrum on this. So, but still, all you need, I think, in these situations, you need a little bit of that luck, and it just needs to start turning around for Potter really quickly, because now it's what, 4 wins in 17. It's better than 2 wins in 15, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, I would agree. You can say that these penalties have been given. You can say that these would not have been given. It depends on the referee and VAR on that day. But yeah, the retake one was pretty funny because it was a very slow run up. But I think there were 3 Dortmund players in the box, and then when it was retaken, they were like, yeah, you know what, we would rather just stand here, not move at all, because they'll probably order a retake. But also kudos to Havertz, because he took the first one, it hit the post and went out, and yeah, he stepped up again. So good for him. Sterling also scored. Sterling scored 2 offside goals as well, but one of them was so blatantly offside that I don't think Dortmund were even defending it.
If the XG stats or anything, I think. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I feel bad for Havertz because he scored a goal, which is pretty rare, and they got disallowed. So we wonder how many more games he'll have to wait for his next. He's like used up all his good luck in this game and only got 1 goal out of it.
Yeah, I don't think Abbas got any sympathy for Havertz missing at this point of time. But yeah, I think I didn't watch the game, but the XG stats are quite telling. I think in the first half, Dortmund were only able to come up with 0.06 XG, and Chelsea had 1.46. So it was clearly a really dominant performance from a chance creation point of view. And at the end of the game as well, very, very healthy stats for Chelsea. So it does look like, I think RK mentioned 3-4 episodes ago that the underlying stats were good for Chelsea, and maybe it's a matter of time. Maybe this is the start of that turning around, and a little bit of luck is all it takes, I guess, between getting sacked and being the best manager of all time and winning the Champions League.
Yeah, let's see what the future brings. Something similar happened to Sir Alex Ferguson, I think, at some point of time in history. But we shall see.
And
Okay,
Abraham
listeners,
Grant as well.
putting it out there, listeners. Swag has just called Graham Potter a potential Alex Ferguson
Exactly.
of this
That's
timeline.
exactly what I've said. Another guy who was about to be sacked, potentially going to be sacked, is doing pretty well is Mikel Arteta. And his team, as Akshay mentioned at the beginning of the episode, came back from the brink with this wonderful winning goal with the last kick of the game. And Radha, you want to hop bandwagons from Liverpool to Arsenal to give us a percentage of what you feel now is their percentage for winning the league?
Nothing's changed. Like I said, the only thing that perhaps in my predictions that will change, of course, is United finishing second. I think this will be a blow for United, and Man City will struggle, will have their hiccups, and they might end up finishing second because United also may not be as consistent as they once were. But for Arsenal, nothing has changed. I don't know about you guys, but I was 100% sure. Even on 94 minutes, I was 100% sure that that winner is coming. After what happened at Aston Villa, I'm completely like, I don't think these guys can. Their mentality is already there where it needs to be. I think they're finding heroes, and they've been doing this all season. They've been finding heroes in the craziest places, and the names that you don't expect to be heroes. But yeah, this was really pushing the limits. Like 98th, 97th, 98th minute, Reiss Nelson, left foot, volley. I mean, I hope you guys saw Ian Wright's celebration. I absolutely love Ian Wright, and he's just an amazing fun guy and pundit, and really nice guy seems like. So his celebration was just superb to watch. And I was expecting it, and I think Arsenal are the real deal. I think 85-15 is where I was, and it doesn't change.
Yeah, I think it would have been criminal if Arsenal ended up losing points, sorry, to Bournemouth, just because of the stats as well, right? They had 31 shots uh, uh, against Bournemouth's four, and they had, I think, around 78 or 80% of the possessions, which is just crazy. I know there were a few penalty decisions as well, which they could have got, but they didn't get. So had that winner not come in, it would have been again a discussion around the poor refereeing standards and all of that, which would have been fun to listen to. But still, I think Arsenal definitely deserved this the 3 points. And it was great to see like the Emirates rocking as well, because historically that has not been a stadium where that has seen like late winners and like people celebrating, and the roof basically coming off because the fans are just going wild. And again, I +1 to the Ian Wright celebration. I think it was so good to watch. It's just like the kid in Ian Wright celebrating that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a closet fan, Anirudh, at some point, but I fear for what this might be for the next several years of Arsenal and being good teams. But anyway, the more the merrier for challenges for United, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to next season with a rejuvenated and ahead of schedule Arsenal, ahead of schedule Man United, and ahead of schedule Newcastle, or all fighting for the championship, and Liverpool. I don't know what Liverpool will do in the summer. Will probably define what sort of challenge
Yeah,
Liverpool poses in terms of their
yeah, and
midfield
don't forget the
buys.
new.
It might all change. It might all change if the Qataris bias. So there might not be any challenges there.
Yeah, then it would be easy mode on FIFA. Just get
Gauntlet being
everyone.
thrown down if the Qataris buy United. So, okay, just to recap. So, we've got Graham Potter is equal to Alex Ferguson. And if the Qataris buy United, come City, come Newcastle, you guys are nowhere to be seen. United are, what glory, and all of that.
Listener, I think this one will be a shorter pod for you to listen because for all our discussion and all our life, we could not figure out a talkie game for the upcoming game week. But tonight we've got Spurs versus Milan, and more importantly, we've also got Bayern versus PSG. That's a big one. One of the challengers for Real Madrid will be knocked out tonight. Let's see who that is. It's just 1-0, so as Chelsea showed last night, it doesn't hold too much ground, particularly when you're talking of such a heavyweight battle such as Bayern PSG. And any thoughts on anyone placing any bets on either of those two sides?
Bayern for me.
I'm going to go PSG. I think some of the connections with Messi and Mbappe in the recent weeks have been really world class, and it's a moments. It's going to be a game of moments for sure. I think for PSG, Bayern are the better, probably more well-oiled machine, and I think Sadio's back, and they should be in good form for that game. I think PSG are more disjointed. They've had a pretty poor post World Cup season, and Neymar has just been announced as being out for the season. And a lot of people feel that maybe PSG will play better without Neymar. So that's not going to change for a one-day situation. I think it's going to come down to Messi and Mbappe's magic, and I think that is in play here. I don't think the lead is that significant for it to be like we've seen with Chelsea just now. I think it can be turned over. So yeah, I'm actually going to go the underdog route and say PSG. Not often that you call PSG an underdog, but I'm going to say PSG for this fixture.
Cool. We'll wait and watch what happens, and we'll reconnect next week with the results of the Champions League and Europa League games. Do we have Europa League this weekend? This midweek? Ah, yes, we were trying to buy tickets.
Wow!
Were you finally able to buy tickets?
Suddenly, somebody
Look at the confidence.
beats Dortmund. Yeah, somebody beats Dortmund, and they're like, oh, all these
The
chatri
real
fixtures of
challengers to
Europa are on
Madrid are
front page.
actually Chelsea, right?
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
Bayern, not PSG, not City. It's Chelsea.
Not Napoli, who incidentally lost in the Serie A this week for a change. This is only their second loss to Lazio.
Swag is changing the topic hastily, but I think he's jinxed Chelsea way too much in this episode.
Yeah. And as we've seen historically on this pod, anyone who I praise goes to shit. So bye, Graham Potter.
Speaking of teams that Swag has jinxed, I think Liverpool are playing Bournemouth next. Are they?
Yep.
Yeah. So is another 9-0 on the on the cards
Yeah.
after the
9-0
7-0?
and sacking of Gary O'Neill because I praised him as well once. So
No
that's
comments,
it.
Sam.
Done.
All the jinx gods are working hard at this already. I can see. So no comment.
RK, we miss you. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up here, listeners, and we'll reconnect next week. And for the time being, have a good evening. Bye bye.